Hey everybody, it's Nick. I just wanted to make one last, hopefully short video to talk about my campaign, my setting, my players, and who their characters will be before we jump into the session and start talking about what happens first week. So, first off, I'm running this game in a homebrew setting of mine that I've created on a continent called Antar. One of my former players was generous enough to draw a map for this campaign setting based on a rough sketch that I'd given him. He's an artist, and so he drew something up in Photoshop and looks super cool, really proud of it, and so I'm going to throw that in the description so you can check it out. I have also made a 17-page, 7,000-word document that I sent out to anyone who plays in my game, and it describes my campaign setting and all the points of interest and the races and nations and factions and gods and history and stuff like that. So sort of everything about my campaign. So that's a great place to go if you are interested in stealing stuff from my game. Not required reading by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe some interesting stuff if you're looking for ideas. So it takes place on that continent of Antar, and how I set the campaign up is I sent a pitch document to my players and said, these are the campaigns that I'm interested in running. What do you guys want to play? And they actually were split down the middle in their vote between high seas adventure and exploring a new region and meeting new factions and interacting with people and a wilderness kind of exploration, and said, hey, can we combine those? And I was like, yes, absolutely. That's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. That's super cool. So they are going to be crew members on a ship that has been hired by the queen of a nation called Krell. And the queen has asked the captain to go and find a safe place for a colony or trading post or fort or outpost in a region called the Southern Isles, sort of a Caribbean analog, if you will. And the reason is because the Queen is trying to open up trade relations with the Eastern nations. There's a bunch of geography that makes that very difficult to do, and so the Southern Isles is a good place to try to do that. So I included a bit of a narrative piece at the beginning to send to all my players. I wrote like a 2 or 3 page short story about the process of the Queen hiring the captain, as well as the captain's opening speech and explanation to the crew on deck of the ship. So not all of it is information that the characters would be privy to, but I wanted to send to the players so they would have some backstory, and it was an interesting narrative piece, and just get them excited and hyped for the game in the weeks leading up to it. So I did send that out. Again, link in the description below. So who are my players? Who are the characters? Basically, I told them, make whatever character you would like, but you are going to start on the deck of this ship. I don't care how. I don't care why. That's sort of up to you. That's your call, and you can figure that out however you would like. But you're going to be level 1. You're going to be starting on the deck of the ship. They opted for level 1. I sort of suggested either level 1, level 3. They picked level 1, so I'm with that. I've never DM'd a game from level 1 before, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to try. So I have 4 brand new players, or relatively new, less than a few sessions apiece, and 1 incredibly experienced player. So it'll be very interesting to see the dynamics between the one very experienced player who can act sort of as a coach or a guide as the new players figure out the tropes and standard operating procedures of a normal adventuring party. So I'm interested to see how that relationship plays out. But also this player the experienced player is a dungeon master himself. And so this is the first time I'm getting to DM for somebody who is also a DM. So we've had a lot of conversations to lay the groundwork for potential backseat DMing and avoiding anything like that. So looking forward to hopefully not having any issues in that area with this player. And I don't think there will be. So let's jump right into it. Who are the players? Who are their characters? We'll just go right around the room. We've got Hunter is playing Travis, the human fighter, who is planning on going into the gunslinger subclass, a popular homebrew by Matthew Mercer. And I told him, great, awesome, you just be sort of, he's a tinkerer on the ship and a crew member already, and so he's going to be doing the process of inventing and discovering guns and firearms. He's going to be using a crossbow for a couple levels, but is very excited to get to try out guns. Next we have the very experienced player Matt playing Orar, the half-elven storm sorcerer, who is also a crew member on the ship, who is sort of the crow's nest watchman type, a very old grizzled veteran, which is very interesting. He tied his real-life experiences into being an older character, so he can get to use some of that, hey, I've been around the block, both as a player and as a character. I think is very interesting. So he has that aspect. He's a storm sorcerer. He sort of got struck by lightning in a magical storm, which awakened an innate magical blood in his body, and now has sorceress powers, which is very cool. Next, we have Jared playing Tico, the wood elf monk, who is planning on going into the Way of the Long Death subclass from Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. And he's left his monastery, left his organization because they were too strict and stringent with the rules, and decided to go off and make a name for himself and figure out and ponder death and be very edgy. So we'll see how edgelord he becomes, but I don't think it'll be too bad. Next we have Jordan playing Clement, the wild magic sorcerer, who has not told the players that much about his backstory, and so I will not tell you that much about his backstory. But they know that he is a criminal who has sort of woken up with very little memory that he is willing to share, and was tasked to serve out his sentence as a crew member on this ship. And they don't really have much background. He hasn't given them much background, so we'll see what unfolds with his backstory and why he's here and how he got his powers. Last, we have Jason playing Edward, the human paladin, who has come from a wealthy, noble family and decided to leave. He's sort of the second son, so he's not the heir, he's more of the spare, and so he's decided to leave and make a name for himself and go and find fame and glory on his own and conquer evil in his own way. That's a little bit about my setting, the information, the setup, the campaign, the players, the characters, so hopefully you have some solid foundation to understand what everything is and who everybody is as we jump right into next video talking about what happens in the first session. So until then, see you next time, guys.